For the first time in our Unfinished Work series, we're probably reviewing a book that is the author's most famous novel.
One thing about Franz Kafka is he wrote 3 novels and none of them were complete.
So in some ways, this almost kind of feels like cheating, but on the other hand, I need an excuse to read this book.
Yeah, The Trial's a classic and it's worth the read and worth the examination.
So today we're going to look at it.
I'm Eric.
And I'm Alex.
And this is In Other Works. So what did you think of the book?
Well, honestly, and this is going to sound really weird me saying this, kind of reminds me of a Malcolm in the Middle episode. Like it could have been the plotline for maybe Malcolm or Francis, you know what I mean?
It's a little more bleak than Malcolm, but...
That's true. And, if it was Malcolm going through with this, obviously Lois would have came in and stopped it all from happening.
Yeah, she'd bail him out at the end and then yell at him.
But, you got the whole, questioning of authority not making sense. The protagonists themselves being ridiculous, all that sort of stuff. It's so weird to say. I think Malcolm in the Middle is intentionally Kafkaesque.
I think one difference...
Yeah.
And we can definitely get into that in the book, is Malcolm in the Middle is people constantly running up against the absurdity of other people.
Yeah.
And this is against the absurdity of the system.
Yeah.
But I see your point, and I think I like it. Malcolm in the Middle is Kafkaesque. Although when I say that this is more about the system, it doesn't mean this book isn't full of some really insane and absurd characters.
Yeah, the characters are ridiculous. Even Joseph K. himself is like, why on earth are you acting this way, dude?
So, yeah, that's one of the things that I just find so crazy about this book. Like, he definitely is taking this trial seriously, thinks this is a great injustice and he is innocent and does not deserve to be treated this way. But every time there's a situation for him to figure out how to deal with it, he's more interested in, the women on the scene. And it's there's Miss Burston, right, who he's so worried that they've used her room without her permission, and that's more than him being arrested. His big concern is that he needs to make things right with her. She's wasn't even around, has no sense that anything's even happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets really pushy and throws himself at her. Then he finally goes to the courts, and there is the woman who lets him into the courts, and he sort of down the road ends up thinking of pursuing something with her, but decides not to. Then he finally meets the lawyer who's supposed to defend him, and rather than listen to what the lawyer has to say, he goes and messes around with his nurse.
Yeah.
And it's just why do you keep doing this? It's ridiculous. He is as ridiculous.
Maybe this is what he's on trial for. Maybe he is guilty.
That'd be great. Although it would definitely make a hypocrite out of the judge's assistant and the judge himself.
Also, another way in which he's just absurd is just him randomly jumping back and forth between being abusive and being thankful to block.
Yeah, he sort of doesn't know how to handle himself in any situation.
No. It's a miracle he got that far in the bank.
Yeah, every encounter he has with employees and with clients at the bank. And I know most of the time when we see that, he's already more worried about the trial than his job, but he's just doesn't seem to know how to interact with people.
One thing that's really interesting about the book is that I think it's very well known that Kafka left in his will that he wanted all of his unpublished works to be burned. And then his friend, who actually apparently I've recently learned before his death, had repeatedly told Kafka he is not going to burn his books, and Kafka left it to him anyways. But basically, Kafka didn't leave any notes on, the chapter order or anything like that.
And didn't write it in a way that made the chapter order clear.
So Max Brod, his friend, figured out the chapter order for himself. How do you think he did?
I personally think he did quite well. I think the story flows. I think it's possible that chapters could be done in a different order, but I don't think...
One thing I was thinking was that the 4th chapter, I felt like that could have also worked as the 2nd chapter, and that the cross-examination stuff could have happened after it, because the cross-examination felt like a while after the 1st chapter. but it didn't necessarily feel like stuff in the fourth chapter had to be that far after the first chapter.
Right. I can see that.
And then also, weirdly enough, even though I think the second last chapter really works well as the second last chapter, even if the final chapter, which without getting into spoilers just yet, is very abrupt, I still think it could have possibly have been before the one where he dismisses the lawyer, since that one it was unfinished.
Yeah, I can see that.
And plus, there's no, in that chapter with the priest, any acknowledgement of the fact he dismissed his lawyer.
Yeah.
I think I like it after more, though.
Yeah, I like where it's positioned. And then we do get to the end, and I would say, like, the way it ends very abruptly, I think that works.
Yeah, that was,
really
I
well.
think partially it was definitely intentionally written to be abrupt, but also partially it was written in an abrupt way because it was like, oh, we didn't set up stuff. Kafka didn't have time to get to, like, the ending yet. And, there's like a space in between that was definitely supposed to be there, but is not.
So I feel like the beginning of the last chapter feels awkward because the last chapter starts with Joseph K. accepting his fate. And we haven't really seen that yet from him. I think
with the priest chapter, you can start to see that start to develop.
Yeah, just start to develop, whereas by the start of the last chapter, he's fully accepted it. It does feel a lot more bleak and less humorous than the rest of the book.
I think I can relate to Kafka in this way because I feel like there's a weird thing where in writing, you could be like 95% through with a project or something. And like there's this weird final step being super hard that you almost give up. I try not to give up, but Kafka is like known for being like a deeply, deeply insecure writer. It seems he wrote The Trial from 1815 to 1816. He died in 1824. He might have just completely abandoned The Trial, which is really sad. Yeah, honestly, The Trial felt to me like it was a comedy. And so when we get this bleak, depressing ending, not that I mind a switch up, like an abrupt tonal shift like that, I think that makes sense in some ways. But it makes it my least favorite chapter, I think.
I think that's one of the things about it being a last chapter where we're missing a bunch of what's in between. Is I think it's possible we're not getting the humor of the last chapter because we don't have the setup for it. And maybe the bleakness of it would have actually played as black comedy more than it does if we had the rest of the chapters.
I want to say, though, shout out to Orson Welles for making a movie adaptation of The Trial. And he managed to, despite, it being an unfinished book with a bunch of stuff in between there, he managed to make it so that the church scene to the ending, like, flows together perfectly. And like it's one thing, and managed to keep the comedy intact without changing much.
No.
Just added a little dynamite. Orson Welles went full German expressionist for this. And it's just, it's one of the best shot movies maybe ever, I think.
Yeah, I think it definitely works with the tone of the book. He's definitely changed some things up. Like in
the church scene is like completely different in the movie than in the book.
And even like the court in the book is in an apartment building. Whereas when you see the outside of the court here,
it's like, what the hell is this?
These huge columns and these statues, and the way he shoots it at this angle just makes it look even bigger and more imposing than it actually would be in real life. There's a statue, which I think is probably a statue of like the representation of justice, but you can't tell for sure because there's a huge sheet draped over it in the movie, which works really well, just covering up justice. The visual of it is fantastic.
But we're not here to review a movie.
Yes, we're done with our movie review aside.
But but now back to the book, though. This book is weirdly structured in a sort of way. It's only 10 chapters. But the way it almost sort of feels, and I guess that comes with the writing style, I feel like each chapter, obviously connecting to the story, almost feels like it's its own short story, too.
Oh, yeah, there's definitely like a beginning, middle, and end to each chapter.
And that's really fun.
Yeah.
I think it means that you could really, honestly, more than any other book, do your own ranking of how you feel about the chapters. I'm not going to ask you to do that. That would be way too much of a pain in the ass. Do you know what your favorite chapter is, or which one stuck out as your favorites?
Probably the church chapter that we talked about already. The chapter with the artist or the painter.
Yeah.
And probably have we talked about Block?
Oh, we mentioned his name,
Yeah.
but yeah. So you like, despite the last chapter, you think you tend to prefer the chapters in the second half to the ones in the first half then?
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting because I think my favorites are more so the earlier chapters. I love the cross-examination chapter and then the empty courtroom chapter. Those stand out as my favorite. And the opening chapter itself, too.
Yeah.
I don't really think I'm not saying I think the book falls off, but those are the funniest chapters to me.
Yeah, I get your point. I don't feel like I'm losing much comedy in those later chapters.
No, you're not.
And I feel like
they're more thought-provoking and
yes.
like meaningful and like emotional stuff going on in them.
Yeah,
Whereas,
and even the weight of the bureaucracy coming down on you when you see a character like Block who's been on trial for years and from what you can see has made no more progress than Joseph K has in like his first 6 months of being in trial, and just like the weight of that, and then seeing how that's affected Block and imagining how that will affect K going forward, those kind of things like were really effective for me.
Yeah.
And comedy-wise though, that the artist scene is so ridiculous.
Yeah, with the 13-year-old girls. What the hell was that?
Yeah, begging to be painted and stuff. I have to say, back to the movie, I didn't picture his room to be quite as exposed.
Not at all. I
as,
did not
as
expect it. I did not picture it like that at all.
But I like how they did.
I love how they did everything with the visuals. I don't think a single thing looked how I imagined it in my head.
No. Yeah.
Anyways, I guess another aspect there is, because you're talking about Block and all that sort of stuff. We meet a lot of kooky side characters in the trial. Does any of them stand out as like your favorite?
I think I might go with the nurse.
Lenny,
yeah.
Yeah.
She's just like, the way she behaves is ridiculous. And then like the explanation for her behavior, that she is attracted
to accused
men. And it goes into this whole thing about like, and it's not that she's attracted to guilty men, because not all accused men will necessarily be guilty, and like the whole like deep explanation, it's just so absurd, and it feels like you're reading something deeply philosophical, but when you take it apart, you're like, no, actually, what is this? It's crazy. I really like that.
Yeah. For me, I'm thinking the uncle.
Oh yeah, I was actually thinking about the uncle too, but I had to go with Lenny.
Yeah, the uncle is just so over the top and just not helping Joseph's case at all.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, can we talk about this like later privately? Yeah, sure. Yeah. So anyways, everyone at the office, you've been arrested, Joseph K?
Yeah, he's pretty great. Even the lawyer is quite absurd. Like, he commands respect and all of this, and then as you find out more and more about him, you wonder, like, does he even deserve any respect?
And then also the way he tries to convince Joseph K to not fire him is like, that would not work on me at all. I would want to fire him even more.
Oh, with him, like, demonstrating his power over Block?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, oh, so this is what I have to look forward to, is eventually you're going to treat me like garbage, and so therefore I should stay? And there is that whole thing where he just totally takes it in stride that Joseph K wants to fire him, but also doesn't accept it. Like, oh yeah, I had a feeling this was coming, but no, you're not going to fire me. That's not happening.
How do you feel about how this book writes women? And what do you think that says about him as a person?
It's hard to say, because the women in this book, I feel like they're all sort of forced into the situations they're in because of the court.
Yeah. And
so, you know, is this just the way the society is forcing them to act, or is this actually how Franz Kafka thinks women act? It's hard to say.
But like, there's also like the other characters that aren't necessarily involved in the courts, you know, like with Miss Bursner and whatnot.
Yeah, but I mean, they act a bit weird sometimes, but I don't know that they demean themselves in any way.
No, I guess not. I guess I'm more so like Joseph's attitude and the way it's all done. Like, obviously, I think Joseph is a pretty problematic person, and I think he probably deserves a guilty verdict, honestly. You know, I don't know what he's being tried for, but I don't know how much Kafka put himself in Joseph K. So I'm not sure whether this book is like some incel stuff, or if it's like a brilliant commentary on that.
I'm more inclined to think it's the latter. I think it's all about how society is forcing women to act in these ways.
Mm-hmm.
It is hard to say because Kafka is writing at the beginning of the 20th century, so the idea that he might be more sexist than we would expect wouldn't surprise me. But at the same time, these books are, his writing is so much about like how the bureaucracy in the society forces people into these absurd situations. So the women behaving absurdly, to me, is just more of that, what society is forcing them to do.
Mm-hmm. I don't really know if I have anything more that comes to my mind to say about the trial. Do you have anything more you want to add?
No, I don't think so, other than obviously it's a fantastic read. Definitely worth reading if you haven't read it already.
I've read The Metamorphosis before, and I mean, I quite like The Metamorphosis. I feel like it kind of peters off once like the first day goes by of him being an insect. Whereas this, I felt hold my attention up until the ending. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and all those other things YouTubers tell you to do. And let us know, have you read this book? What are your thoughts on it? And should we read Kafka's other works?
So we'll see you soon.
Man, you know this book is totally Kafka-esque.